Hey, my name is Jason,
And I'm Richie.
and we're from Burn Right Products. And today we want to walk you guys through the process of installing one of our incinerator cages and go through the entire assembly process and kind of show you what's involved in doing that. So, why don't we have you guys come a little closer? We're actually going to walk through what's included very quickly out of the box. So, obviously, it's very important to kind of take a full inventory and accounting of what's included in the box. So, first things first, let's start over here on your left side. First thing you're going to see is we've got four stainless steel base rings. You're going to want to make sure that you've got four base rings. That's going to ultimately form a circle and serve as the base or the foundation of the barrel. Hard to see here, but we've got four stainless steel panels. We ship them like this so they lay flat in the box, but you will have four panels. We have a hardware kit. So this is a complete hardware kit. You will not have to be making runs to the hardware store. We include all the hardware in this package. Our safety and assembly instructions. This is arguably probably the most important piece in here. So it's a very well illustrated document. It's gonna walk you through the assembly and the construction of the barrel, give you some helpful tips, including some safety precautions, some burning precautions that you guys are gonna wanna follow. So definitely keep this. This is available on our website too in case you lose it. So this is definitely important. And then of course, last but not least, we've got the two stainless steel angle grades. So both of those are included. So assuming that you've got everything, I see you're pretty well on your way to getting started. So, Richie, can you walk everybody through what tools that we need here?
Sure.
What's on the table?
Well, first off, you're going to want to make sure you're safe. So get some gloves, do your gloves, because you are working with a stainless steel barrel here. It might be a sharp edge or a bird. You don't want to cut yourself. And anytime I'm using a drill, I use safety glasses. So also, we can put this together with a regular drill or an impact driver. You can do either or. We'll show you with both. Pliers to bend over your tabs of your angle grades so you're not letting them fall out while you're burning. Then a scissors to open up your hardware kit, which if you notice the hardware kit comes with this bit for your drill, so you don't have to go and get one of them either. So it's there for your convenience.
And can you just talk very briefly about why someone might want to use like an impact driver versus a regular drill, or maybe some of the pros and cons to each?
I guess the pros and cons would be if you're experienced with an impact driver, it's going to be faster and easier. Not everybody has an impact driver, so you can do it with a regular drill. And if you're doing it with a regular drill, you want to do it with a clutch. If you don't have a clutch, you just got to make sure you're not over tightening, but you'll be fine there.
Okay, and we'll walk through some of that when we ultimately do the assembly. So
Yes.
we'll point out some of these features, but yeah, really that's it. So I think at this point, assuming that we've got everything, we've got the tools necessary to kind of get the job done, we're ready to start building the barrel. So we'll do that next. Okay, so step one of constructing the incinerator is really to get the four panels together. So if you come a little closer, we're going to highlight a couple of things here. So Rich and I have already taken the liberty to just piece together the first four panels. So a couple of things to make note of. We're actually working on these barrels upside down, and that'll make sense when we move to step two and we're putting the base ring on. But we're actually working from top down. So what you see here on the top is actually the bottom of the barrel. That's ultimately going to be where the cover is, and we do that for a reason. It's going to make inserting the actual base ring much easier. And we know when we're putting these panels together that this is the bottom because these chevrons, you'll see chevrons kind of every panel, the chevrons will be on the top. Okay, these chevrons are actually used for the inserting of the angle grates, which are ultimately going to be on the bottom of the barrel. And one thing we do, a couple things to note here. We're just using 1, 2, 3 in some cases. Some seams have 3 or 4. We're just getting a few of those screws lightly started to kind of hold the structure of the barrel. You'll notice that actually there's a lot of play, and we're doing this purposely. We actually want some movement in the barrel, okay? Another thing to note here too, you'll actually see some bent flanges. These bent flanges on the inside of the barrel will always be on the inside of the barrel. These are the fluing systems. So these are like the chimneys that will actually help create draft in the barrel. We've got part of our patent actually involves these guys. So when you're seaming together, putting these panels together, you're always going to make sure that these flanges are on the inside. Okay. Now there are a couple things to note here. You'll notice that Richie did not use the top 2 screws, and he did not use the very bottom 2. So we're going to avoid using those when just piecing it together. These top 2 are these we're ultimately be on the bottom, but they're on the top here. These are going to be used for putting the base ring on. And these top 2, or these bottom 2 down here, are going to be used for putting the clips on, which will ultimately hold the cover. So don't use the top 2, don't use the bottom 2. You can just space out you can see we had a couple here and one here. There's some other areas of the barrel where we've got 4 or 5 started. But again, the basic structure of the barrel is now completed. And from here, once this is done, this is probably the hardest part of the job. Once you're at this point, we can move on to step 2, which is going to be piecing together the base ring. So let's walk over to the table here. We've got a couple of things laid out. Again, very easy process. So we've got 4 rings. Very easy to do. You'll actually see that these raised flanges on each of the base rings will actually meet up here in the center. And move that hardware out of the way. And what I like doing is let's form the actual base ring. And we're actually going to take, you've got a threaded bolt and a self-locking hex nut here. And we can just do these by hand. So this is very easy to do. And so I'm just going to kind of get these guys started. I really want to keep these loose. So I want a little bit of play in there. So we're just going to keep these loose. We're going to do one for each of these guys. Okay, I'm going to turn this around on the table here. Doesn't make a difference which direction you go in. My OCD, I always have to have everything exactly the same. Okay. Base ring is essentially attached, and you'll notice that it's actually fairly loose. And we want it fairly loose because we're going to take the base ring now, and we're going to move it over to the barrel, and we are going to place it over the top of the barrel. These tabs that you actually see here on the inner side of the base ring are going to be the mounting points now that will attach to these top holes that you see around the barrel. So you've got a hole here, holes here. They're all around. So these tabs need to line up. So that's why we need a little bit of play in this guy to actually make sure this can happen. So we'll move this over here, and it's going to look clunky. If it looks a little clunky like that, it's okay to kind of just keep them a little tighter. We're going to take the ring here, and we are going to place it over the top of the barrel. Now, I'm going to have Richie step in here to help me out too, because one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that all of these tabs here, you'll actually see these tabs, are going to be on the outside of the barrel. Okay? And this is why, again, you want a little bit of play. So now that we've got all the tabs on the outside of the barrel, you'll see these tabs are sitting on the outside, nothing's on the inside. And all we're going to do basically now is just get these holes aligned up. So Richie, I don't know if you want to start, maybe we'll get this one if one of them's easy for you to start. And again, we're going to be using an impact driver. Okay, so now that we've got a screw in, okay, that helps basically provide a little rigidity. There's a couple things. Justin, I want you to kind of move in a little bit here because I want you to point out a couple things. You'll actually see that the barrel, where the barrel is seamed here, actually sits on this inside lip, okay? So as we start working our way around, you'll actually see like how that barrel should tuck into that lip and make a secure, tight, snug fit to that tab. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to make sure all of these tabs are lined up now, which they are. And then Richie will kind of complete the rest of the process here. And we'll get that done, and the base ring will be installed. Okay, now that we've got the base ring installed, one thing Richie's done too is that every one of these screws that he used to secure the base ring, these still aren't fully tightened down yet. We're going to do the full tighten down later. But you'll notice that now there's a little bit of play in these guys, okay? And you remember when we first, we've got a screw and a locking nut here, 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 and here. And all those 4 nuts and bolts now can just be self-tightened. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take it really quick. We're just going to basically go and these will just self-tighten on themselves. Okay, that's tight. And we want to make sure there's no overlap, so you just want to be, there you go. That's tight. Okay, tight. And then the last one. Okay. Now this actually provides the full rigidity. This one needs a little more. Okay. Now these things are actually on here rigidly, and this really helps to kind of like create the actual formation of the barrel. So Next step is we're actually going to flip this guy upside down now back to its regularly scheduled position. And then we are going to install the top clips that'll be used for the spark arrestor. Okay, so really easy to turn back up into the upright position. You notice the barrel now that the base rings are on the bottom, and this is what's providing the actual base for the barrel. And so the next step really is what we're going to do is the two top holes on each seam. We're actually only going to use 3. We got 3 clips. You can't have 4 clips on all sides, otherwise the cover would not slide in and out properly. Doesn't make a difference which of the 3 seams you choose to add the clips on. So we'll have Richie step back in here again really quick. We're going to get these clips installed, and we'll show you the process of adding these clips. Okay, so while Richie's doing that, okay, a couple things to note here really quick. You're going to notice that the clip is actually installed on the outside of the barrel, not on the inside. So very easy to do. These ones you can actually go fully in, torque them all the way down. And so we'll just go to the next side. We'll work our way down until all 3 clips are installed. Okay. Now all 3 clips are installed. Apologize for the phone ringing in the background. But all 3 clips are installed. So we'll actually bring in a cover really quick so you can actually see. This is an old cover, but we're going to bring a cover in really quick. And you'll see the process. This is an old cover, by the way. This thing has been used now for about 5 years, so you can kind of see the condition of the cover. This is a patina. This is not rust. It's a little bit of oxidation that cleans up really easy, but holding the shape and dome of the cover. And so this cover comes right into these clips like this, and those clips will actually provide a way so this cover doesn't pop out. Okay. Okay, so now that we've got the barrel and the clips installed, the next step of the process really is to insert screws into all of the remaining holes. So you're basically now going to seam the entire barrel. So every time you see a hole, we're going to insert a screw. So we'll do that. We'll time lapse this because this is going to take an incredible amount of time, but we don't want you to have to bore you with that. So Rich and I will get to that, and we'll follow up when it's completed. All right, step 4 now is to insert the angle grate. So again, very easy process to do. Richie and I will demonstrate how the cross pattern is kind of done with the angle grates, and then the small bend that we've got to make in these guys. But all right, so another thing to point on the barrels again, now that you'll see that the barrel is in its regular upright position, these chevrons are facing upwards, okay? And then if you walk around the barrel, you're actually going to see that there are chevrons in each side panel. So it doesn't really make a difference which one we go. We're just ultimately going to create a cross pattern on the panels, or on the angle grates. So we'll start with this one. So first things first, you'll see that one side is flared out, the other side is not. So this is the side that's going to get inserted, and maybe Richie can go on the other side because a little bit of a puzzle piece here. It's just going to fit all the way in through there. It's going to come out. Okay. And what we're going to do now that this is inserted, all we're going to really do is basically, we just have to bend up one of these tabs. And so Richie will do that with the pliers. And so what that does is that prevents that grate from now coming out. Okay. And so now that we've come this way, we're actually going to go on the higher chevron now on this side. We'll do the same thing. And we'll just match it to the next hole that's got to come over here. There we go. Okay, again, can't come out. So I think let's get the barrel on the ground. It's going to be a lot easier to see actually the cross pattern here. And so what you'll see now are that the angle grates create like an X at the bottom of the barrel. And again, as you're loading material into the barrel, the purpose of these guys is to help basically create a gap of air below the barrel. And that'll actually serve as to creating additional airflow and draft through the barrel when you've got it lighted. So from this point on, essentially, you have now completed the construction of the barrel. So one thing we like doing too is just kind of going around the barrel. We like making sure that every single screw hole has been filled in, that all of the screws, there's 4 of them on the base rings, that those are all tightened. All the tabs around the barrel here, those are all tightened. The clips are strong. And at that point, you've essentially have completed the construction of the barrel.